Welcome to Dodgers Daily. Casey Porter here, joined by Austin Brubaker. Austin, are you dodging snow today, or is it melting?
Oh, no, actually right now there's no snow on the ground right now.
Oh, nice.
All of it has melted.
Let's play some baseball then, baby. Let's go.
Dude, I would play it if it was snowing outside right now here in the state of Michigan, which they practically do at the beginning of April in Dow Diamond. No, we are getting very close to opening day, actually getting really close to pitchers and catchers report. About a month from now, pitchers and catchers will be reporting, and there's going to be some new players that are going to be reporting to the Los Angeles Dodgers as the Dodgers made a couple of moves over the past couple of days. Casey, it's great to be able to see you, be able to talk on this Saturday, right in between college football playoffs and NFL playoffs, which is what we were trying to avoid with the schedule.
Yes, absolutely. We actually have a lot to talk about, a couple of topics here. We're going to get into some down the farm stuff, some guys that we think that you need to know as spring training gets going. Hey, we would rather, to be honest with you, down the farm, we would rather you suggest who you want us to cover, like we did in the last show, in terms of the prospects and whatever down the farm coverage you'd like. We would rather you suggest the players that we cover, but we've got a couple of mine that we can cover if we don't get any suggestions from there. We also have, I'm going to say it right off the bat. And so if I say the wrong first name, know who I'm talking about, because I'm telling you, I'm old, I'm senile, and my brain just twitches like this. So if I say Raul Ibanez, and now if I have that first name in your head, and now you're never going to be able to stop saying that, instead of Andy Ibanez, I'm sorry. It's kind of like, have you ever heard a song on the radio, Austin? And for like 2 or 3 days, you just can't get that song out of your head, right?
Oh, yeah.
You ever had that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's Andy Ibanez. I'm going to say Raul Ibanez sometime in this show, sometime in the next show, sometimes in the show after that, probably for however long that takes to get Raul Ibanez out of my brain. Andy Ibanez signed for the Dodgers. We're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about the poll that was taken. Dodgers #1 farm system, #1 in developing pitching, #1 in developing hitters, #1 in development. All of that, we're going to get into that, and then also the down the farm. So first of all, there's been more than one move than just the Ibanez move, so dive into them, Austin.
Yeah, first off, before we get into the actual player that the Dodgers signed, it's funny that you mentioned Raul Ibanez. The first thing that I think of with him, not as his stretch with the Yankees, I think of him more of as a Seattle Mariner, and the reason why I mentioned that is the first ever baseball game I went to, it was in 2004. It was a Mariners-Tigers game in late May, and I remember getting some Mariners-specific baseball cards. I wasn't paying attention that much to baseball. I was almost 5 at that point, but I very remember specifically I still have a Raul Ibanez Mariners team baseball card from that season. That is not who the Dodgers decided to bring in. Lucky for the Dodgers, because he's getting up there in age. They got instead.
Although, according to me, that might be the case about 10 times.
That might be the case for you, Casey. No, the Dodgers signed actually and brought in 2 infielders that are part of the mix. So let's lay out the groundwork for what has been going on for the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers 40-man roster entering into yesterday was at 39 players. And the Dodgers yesterday made 2 additions to their 40-man roster. One has been official. The other one has not. The one that is unofficial that Casey and I will talk about first, because the other one that was added to the 40-man roster I think is a little bit more of a depth addition at this point, Ryan Fitzgerald. The one that's official right now is Andy Ibanez signed a major league contract to be with the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is not official with the Dodgers yet. They will have to make a corresponding 40-man roster move to be able to make it official. But Andy Ibanez, infielder, can play second base, can play third base, a little bit of utility. He can play a lot of different positions as part of the mix. He has been added to the Los Angeles Dodgers. A couple things that you need to know about Andy Ibanez. Past couple of seasons been with the Detroit Tigers. He is somebody that is very strictly, at least with the way that the Tigers utilized him, a platoon infield bat. And he's on the short side of the platoon, meaning that when Andy Ibanez hits, he is going to almost exclusively, or at least the way that the Tigers used him, is hit almost exclusively against left-handed pitching. Andy Ibanez, the past 3 seasons against left-handed pitching, I believe is a 116 WRC plus, 115 throughout his entire career. He is, when he is able to go against lefties, pretty solid as a hitter. overall, as a hitter, the past couple of seasons is more of a 93 WRC plus. He does not really hit that well against right-handed pitching. So let
me stop you there.
Yes.
That's an odd pickup because Tommy Edman, the guy that he might platoon with at second base, I think this is probably, we're going to get into the fact that this may be insurance for him overall.
Yep.
In case Tommy Edman's just not in the lineup, right?
Yes.
But Tommy Edman's best from the right side, correct? And so why would you go get a guy to platoon with Tommy Edman when both of their substantially better sides are against left-handers? That doesn't match to me.
Okay, so there's a couple of things that are very curious about this, because you mentioned some of the Dodgers' depth that they have in their system that are going to be on the major league roster. Let's go through a couple of the infielders that are going to be fighting for some sort of playing time, or we could be expecting them to fight for some sort of playing time. Max Muncy is going to be near full time at third base. However, the past couple of seasons, he's missed time with injury. He is much better against right-handed pitching. So the thought process that I had going into this is you have somebody like Miguel Rojas, who can play over a little bit at third base. He's much better against left-handed pitching. You have Miguel Rojas and Tommy Edman, much better against left-handed pitching that can both play third base and second base.
Now you added another guy.
Now you added another guy.
The same guy.
You added another guy that is part of that mix, which means that, and especially with the profile of player that Andy Ibanez is, swings a decent amount, is going to make a decent amount of contact, not a whole lot of walks, 6% walk percentage, 19-ish percent strikeout percentage, but very specifically can hit against left-handed pitching. I think this could.
So can Tommy Edman and Miguel Rojas, right?
Let me explain, Case.
Right.
I think this is a sign that Tommy Edman might not be as healthy as we are anticipating. The reason why I'm saying that is because Andy Ibanez has to be on the major league roster. He's got no flexibility. He has to be on the major league roster, which means if you have Miguel Rojas and Tommy Edman that are part of the infield mix, and they are going to be guys that are going to be playing a lot against left-handed pitching, man, what is the need for Andy Ibanez? It very likely is not a whole lot of need for Andy Ibanez if that is the mix. However, Andy Ibanez is likely not to cost the Dodgers. We don't know the reported figure. Probably not going to cost the Dodgers a whole lot. If you know that Tommy Edman is at the very least questionable going into the start of spring training, I think this is some added insurance for a very particular role that some of the other players on your roster do not fill. For example, one of the first question marks that I had immediately, but then I retracted a little bit, was guys like an Alex Freeland and Ha-Seong Kim. When we were talking about Alex Freeland and Ha-Seong Kim, yes, I think they need some playing time at the major league level, but the role that they have is not against left-handed pitching. It is very specifically against right-handed pitching that both of them need. So I think with Andy Ibanez, I don't necessarily think this is a long-term fit on the roster, especially if they bring back Kike Hernandez, unless he is able to go out and really succeed. But you have somebody that can fit a very specific role and allows you some time to wait until Tommy Edman is completely ready, and then he gets that role back. And then if there's another injury on the roster, Andy Ibanez sticks around. If not, I think they potentially can move off of him, especially if it is something that he doesn't go out and succeed. So I think this has a lot of question marks as to Tommy Edman's health going into the season. And if Tommy Edman, there's a question about his health, I think there might be a move. If they're going to make a move, probably it's going to be an outfielder that they're going to add to the mix next.
So you're explaining this as this is a stopgap. He's a DFA guy if everybody's healthy. It's just insurance to make sure that Tommy Edman's healthy. And if Tommy Edman is healthy, then at some point he gets DFA'd. Is that the argument we're making here?
I think that is, from my understanding of Andy Ibanez as an overall player and the role that he would fit, I do not anticipate Miguel Rojas being a DFA type of player because he's been on the team for a long time. But I think with the profile of player that Andy Ibanez has, combined with the fact that I think he was just recently DFA'd by the Detroit Tigers, I think this is the role that Andy Ibanez fits most well because his role is very duplicate-ish to what Tommy Edman, although a little bit more utility on the infield side of things.
Interesting. That move kind of course, the Dodgers are just so good at this that every time I question anything, I always get egg thrown on my face, so I've just learned not to. So take us through some of the other moves the Dodgers have made.
Okay, so they made that specific move, which let me dive into a couple more numbers with Andy Ibanez just because I want to make sure that Dodgers fans are understanding the type of player that he is. I mentioned 116 WRC plus against left-handed pitching. Power is going to be a little bit below league average for Andy Ibanez as an overall player. Just not that type of power. Almost a 7% barrel percentage the past 3 years. Hard hit percentage 38%. 140 ISO type of player. I mentioned the walk and strikeout percentage. He's going to swing a decent amount. One thing that I found to be a little bit more of a positive is he can play a lot of different positions, but he also has been somebody that's been a really good defender over the past several seasons. If you look at defensive runs saved combined with all the different positions that he's played, the past 3 seasons, he's put up 18 defensive runs saved. He is a good defender. Outs above average, fielding run value are also really solid. So you're getting somebody who does a very specific thing well and is able to play well defensively as part of it. So I think that is a pretty solid, especially for a league minimum type of deal, for a very specific role that the Dodgers might be able to fill in. So the reason why I mentioned Tommy Edman, which I want to do into this and before we talk about Ryan Fitzgerald, because I want you guys to be able to understand the roster. Because the question that I think Dodgers fans are going to have is, does this prevent the Dodgers from being able to add an outfielder to the mix? And the answer to that is no. Does this also prevent the Dodgers from being able to have Alex Freeland or Ha-Seong Kim as part of the mix? And if my theory is correct that Tommy Edman they are at least questioning whether he's going to be ready for opening day, I think there still could potentially be room that is part of the mix. Let me go ahead and explain this as far as the players that are on the roster right now. So with Andy Ibanez, there's currently, I have 11 players locked in out of the 13 position players on the 26-man roster. Those players are Ohtani, Smith, Betts. This does include Tommy Edman, Freddie Freeman, Andy Ibanez, Max Muncy, Miguel Rojas, Teoscar Hernandez, Andy Pages, and Dalton Rushing. That does not include an Alex Call. You threw an Alex Call into the mix, and you still have room for another outfielder. And that includes 12 plus the outfielder is 13. If Tommy Edman is going to miss the start of the season, and assuming that Kike Hernandez is also going to miss the start of the season, they will not be on the 26-man roster at the beginning of the season, meaning what you could have in the infield is you could have a Platoon, Max Muncy, and Ibanez at third base, and a Ha-Seong Kim or an Alex Freeland and a Miguel Rojas at second base platoon, meaning you have 2 different platoons doing exactly what they can. You can still make the math work, add in an outfielder to the mix, and still be able to make your 26-man roster able to work around. What's fascinating, I'll let you go and get any thoughts into that. So I still think that if Tommy Edman is going to miss some time at the beginning of the season, I still think you can make a 26-man roster work to where the exact same role that we had talked about with Alex Freeland and Ha-Seong Kim, if they earn it throughout the course of spring training, could potentially be there for them to get some plate appearances, while also giving Tommy Edman the time to be able to rest at the beginning of the season. Is there any sort of concerns that you have with that portion of the roster after we went through and explained it?
Well, I mean, if it comes down to we don't think Tommy Edman's healthy, we're not sold that we're going to get Kike Hernandez back at this point, then that part of it makes sense, but not to me. I would rather give those reps to Alex Freeland and Ha-Seong Kim, and the reason is I think the Dodgers are good enough everywhere else that I don't think I would personally rather fill in that margin right there with your system rather than an older veteran. The older veteran thing, I just don't agree with, unless this is a situation to where specifically the only way this would make sense to me that I would agree with this is if you made the statement to me, hey, this guy is here until Tommy Edman is healthy, and then as soon as he's healthy, he's going to get DFA'd. But then I would even push back on that then, okay, well, Alex Freeland and Ha-Seong Kim still have minor league options. Just use them. That would be my pushback on that. So the pushback. I don't like to disagree with the front office. I think they're the greatest in baseball. I think they play 40 chess. I've posted about it several times lately. I can't see this move, and it doesn't make any sense personally to me. I've been proven wrong many different times in the past. I probably will be proven wrong again on this one.
Yeah, so the pushback and the argument against it that the front office would probably make is Alex Freeland, Ha-Seong Kim, you would probably say that they were probably a bit better platoon-wise against righties than lefties. Andy Ibanez is the opposite way. So when you're talking about adding those guys to the mix, it'd be very difficult for the Dodgers to jump in Alex Freeland.
Who's Miguel Rojas good against?
He is good against left-handed pitching.
Okay.
And so what you would have, I'll map it out this way. So the two platoons that you could potentially have.
So what's the role of Miguel Rojas then? You already have that guy.
Let me explain just a second. Let me just explain just a second. The two platoons that you would potentially have that would be part of the infield. Let's talk about third base first. Third base, Max Muncy hitting against righties. That's the plus side of the platoon. He'd be getting the majority of the at-bats. The short side of the platoon, which would be against left-handed pitching, which both Alex Freeland and Ha-Seong Kim not great against, that's where Andy Ibanez would fit in. So you'd have Max Muncy getting the majority at-bats against righties, Andy Ibanez against lefties. Then at second base,
you're going to want me to take at-bats away from Max Muncy, even on his negative side, for Andy Ibanez. I'm going to do that right there.
So let's go over
even with the statistical measures you're going to give me. Max Muncy is a guy. I'm going to go coach mode versus statistics mode, and I'm going to tell you in this situation I'm right. Because I've seen it with my own eyes. Max Muncy, you can break him down statistically all you want. But what Max Muncy is, he's a rhythm hitter. He's a timing hitter. He's a hitter that goes hot. He's a hitter that goes cold. And he's a hitter that needs every day at bats to stay in rhythm. He's a hitter that needs every day at bats to be at the top of his game. And when he's at the top of his game, there's no reason to just arbitrarily put an Andy Ibanez in platoon for him. Max Muncy, regardless of his splits, is an everyday offensive player, and he's one of the most valuable contracts and valuable offensive players, at least for the Dodgers and the fit for them and the way they're set up on an everyday basis. There is absolutely zero reason to platoon for Max Muncy unless your case is we want to reduce his. Now, if you want to say you want to reduce his workload to keep him healthy and maximize him for the playoffs, fine. I'm going to tell you that's why you have Miguel Rojas. That's what Kike Hernandez is for, okay? You already have that guy. You didn't need to add an extra guy. I think between Tommy Edman, whether he's healthy or not, Miguel Rojas, certainly Kike Hernandez, and Alex Freeland and Ha-Seong Kim, you already had the right-handed versus right-handers versus the left-handers versus now the question is who do you want to fill your margin in with? The young guys to give them experience or the older veteran to stopgap. I'm going to go with the young guy. So that's my statement to that.
Okay, so let me explain because I have a little bit of pushback that I would have with that. I think there's two parts of why there could potentially be a platoon with Max Muncy. I think there's two-part equation. I think you kind of address a little bit of both. I think the first one, that's probably the most important one, is Max Muncy has not been healthy the past couple of seasons.
Right.
Yes, they have been freak type of injuries, but you also want to make sure that Max Muncy is healthy because he is such an integral part of this lineup. You need Max Muncy healthy for October.
Yes.
The lineup is not the same without him. The bat quality is not the same. The guy that can draw a walk at a 14.5% clip and also be able to hit for a ton of power in the 5 to 6, 7 type of range in the lineup is sorely needed in this Dodgers lineup, to the point where, man, Max Muncy has been healthy the past couple of seasons. Adding him some additional rest would make a lot of sense. Who do you add him and how do you get him some additional rest? Well, let's be fair. Max Muncy has not been that good against left-handed pitching. Over the past 3 seasons, Max Muncy has had a 78 WRC plus against left-handed pitching. That is 22% lower than league average type of hitter. If you compare a Max Muncy with an Andy Ibanez over at third base. This is some of the thought process I'm trying to get you. You can disagree with it in just a minute. But if you're trying to pair a platoon with Max Muncy and Andy Ibanez, what you would want to do is try to figure out a way to be able to get Max Muncy some rest while also being able to find ways to be able to address the weakness that Max Muncy has as part of an overall player. One of the weaknesses he has, not good against lefties. If you could pair him with somebody that is good against lefties, that can play at least early in the season, especially if they're going to miss Tommy Edman and Kike Hernandez, who both of them are, at least with Kike Hernandez, he's going to miss the start of the season. Tommy Edman, I think it's increasingly likely that he could potentially miss the start of the season, or at least are buying some insurance. The reason why Andy Ibanez is part of this roster is because they think Tommy Edman could miss the start of the season. If you could pair those two as part of a platoon mix, I think that could one, be able to provide Max Muncy some additional rest, and two, provide specific strategic days in which to give Max Muncy some rest, because you're throwing in somebody that is good versus the opposite side. And then it makes sense both platoon-wise, health-wise for Max Muncy. You have a Max Muncy and Andy Ibanez platoon. You mentioned Miguel Rojas. Why not have Miguel Rojas fit in there? I think that is the case when Tommy Edman is healthy. However, if Tommy Edman is not healthy, we're talking about the second base. So third base, Max Muncy and Andy Ibanez. Second base, this is the platoon that I think could potentially be the case if the Dodgers keep the roster relatively similar to what it is right now. The Max Muncy versus righties, Andy Ibanez versus lefties. Versus righties at second base would be either Alex Freeland or Hae-Sung Kim at this point. And then versus lefties would be Miguel Rojas. So you ask, what is the role for Miguel Rojas? I think it is platoon at second base versus lefties, in which Alex Freeland and Hae-Sung Kim have struggled against lefties, or at least from the statement that I think they would be better against righties in the Dodgers case. And if you want to find strategic ways to be able to get them into the lineup, I think majority of the time versus righties would probably be the way that the Dodgers are going to go ahead and implement both those players into the mix. So you still have the plus side of the platoon. The option that's going to get the majority of time would be in Max Muncy and in Alex Freeland or Hae-Sung Kim, getting your best player out of this mix and your younger players the majority of playing time, versus the negative side of the platoon versus left-handed pitching, which doesn't happen quite as much. Andy Ibanez gives Max Muncy some rest, better against left-handed pitching, and then Miguel Rojas, good off of the bench, additional insurance that's part of the mix as well. I think this could be the way, if Tommy Edman is going to miss time from the start of the season, that you both get some younger players into the mix while also making sure Max Muncy is able to stay healthy long-term as best as you possibly can. You mentioned some of the younger players. I think the younger player that I probably feel the worst on with this type of move would be Gator, Austin Gauthier. Yeah. Because if you want to make an argument, hey, why bring it in Andy Ibanez when Austin Gauthier tore it up during the last month and a half, 2 months in the season, it's very hard to be able to argue that type of role. I think he is the one that is actually more impacted by this move than Alex Freeland or Hae-Sung Kim.
I'm going to push back on that. How do you get better at something?
Do you have to go out and practice it?
So how in the world is Hae-Sung Kim and Alex Freeland, two very, very, very talented young players, how in the hell are they ever going to get better against left-handed pitching if you don't ever let them hit against left-handers? Same with Max Muncy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, are you going to sit Max Muncy on the bench in the playoffs?
No, you're not going to sit Max Muncy.
Then why would you say? Then why would you put him in a situation? Are they just never going to throw a lefty in the play? So why would you avoid Max Muncy against lefties in the regular season when you know he's going to play every single game? He's going to take every single at bat in the postseason, and you're going to give him no at bats against lefties. And then also the argument there is, okay, Hae-Sung Kim and Alex Freeland aren't great against lefties. I'm not going to disagree with that whatsoever. But then you're also going to say, well, the only way they can actually get better and improve that part of their game is if they actually get to go out and be able to do that, fail, find the adjustments, move forward, that kind of thing. But then you're taking away all of those opportunities from them. Neither one of those make any sense to me for a very, 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 what I consider to be average player that you're bringing in, average enough to where on the other side of that, with all those arguments you just made, you're also telling me that as soon as Tommy Edman is healthy, you're likely going to DFA the guy. That guy just doesn't – he's not worth all of those opportunities to me. There's my narrative.
So this would be some of my pushback actually on myself, because I think we actually saw during the Philly series, the Dodgers actually did bench Max Muncy against left-handed pitching, especially with the Phillies left-handed starters that were part of the mix. They put him on the bench early and then went to him later in the game. I don't remember if it was for Kike Hernandez they went to.
Of course, it's Kike, man. It's not Andy Ibanez, it's Kike, and there's a big difference there.
But here's the thing, is if you're going to do that during the postseason as well, if the Dodgers showed, hey, Max Muncy, we're going to hit you against basically right-handed pitching during the postseason and not that much against left-handed pitching, what is the issue with doing that during the regular season as well? I think that if I remember correctly, I think that is the strategy that they did during the course of the postseason, because Max Muncy, I mean, it's one of those things. If you want to argue, hey, Alex Freeland, hey, Sung Kim, we need you to start getting ready because we don't know if you're going to be big league players. We want you to see left-handed pitching. With Max Muncy, he's towards the end of his big league career. I think he is the player that he is at this point, and I don't know how much additional increase in production he's going to be able to get against left-handed pitching. And I think he's just somebody who's not going to be that well against left-handed pitching.
Who are you talking about?
Max Muncy, just overall as a player. One of the things that you could potentially also argue in this case is, do you want both Alex Freeland and Hae-Sung Kim on the major league roster, and why or why not? If Tommy Edman is not healthy, there's a good chance that both Alex Freeland and Hae-Sung Kim are on the roster. Would you want that to be the case? Why and why not? Would you not want? Would you?
I absolutely would.
Not?
I think the only adjustments left to make for both Hae-Sung and Alex are major league adjustments. I get it that the everyday at bats at the minor league level, this and I'm usually in that camp, not with these two, because first of all, Alex Freeland has had enough at bats. He's had enough exposure to major league type guys at the AAA level. He kind of is what he is, kind of like Dalton Rushing. The only next step for him is to start making adjustments against major league pitching. Yes, on Kim, when he first came over, he had to get used to the fact that the AAA hitters hit the ball harder than what he was used to seeing in the KBO, point blank. The balls were hit harder. You had to get used to that. Okay, so he got used to that. The adjustments for him, the reducing the strikeouts, this and that, yeah, you can work on some mechanics here, mechanics there at the AAA level. You can work on this or that. But Hae-Sung Kim is so talented. He has so much upside to him that it's a shame whenever he's young, and it's certainly on a team. So here's another kind of where I'm coming at. This team has so much margin for error in the spots that they're going to be playing. I mean, you're talking about a 9-hole second base. They could go 7 or 8 games and not get a hit, and this team still go 7-0. That's the margin for error, especially with the starting pitching, the bullpen they have. So this team isn't going to need a whole lot out of an Alex Freeland. Well, if they would, they'd be getting somebody other than Andy Ibanez. They'd be going and getting the best offensive second. They'd be going and getting Bo Bichette instead of Andy Ibanez if they felt like they actually needed a whole lot out of what they're getting. So all you're going to need, what the Dodgers are telling you by getting Andy Ibanez, is all you're going to need is a 230 type hitter, right? A guy, and not even a guy that walks a whole lot. So that's literally the bar that would be being set for a Hae-Sung Kim or an Alex Freeland is, if you played every day, we just need you to hit about 230. We need you to lower your strikeouts. You don't necessarily have to walk. That's the bar for you. Alex Freeland, to me, and Hae-Sung Kim could easily surpass that from a results perspective. And then also, to me, I'm going to go back to it again. I don't think the adjustments that Hae-Sung Kim or Alex Freeland need to make at this point. I think the only way that they can make those is against major league hitters, because it's such a huge jump from AAA to the major leagues that you can do all that you want. You can go back and do what James Outman did 3 or 4 different times. You can do what Ryan Ward's doing. You can do what Drew Avens did. You can do all of what Ryan Noda did 4 or 5. You can do all of that. That's great in Oklahoma City. You know how much that matters? Not any. The only thing that matters is whether you can prove, because, at every level you jump at in professional baseball, it's a complete reset. Diego Cartaya lit it up with Great Lakes. At some point, you have to find 2 things get you. Either you get too old and your skills diminish, or the talent level becomes to the point to where you can't compete. So Diego Cartaya, great at the high A level, terrible at the double A level. We see so many guys get to the triple A level. They're very good. Get to the major league level, right there. So until you actually put Alex Freeland and Hae-Sung Kim in that situation and let them prove it one way or the other, you never know. The adjustments at the AAA level to them, in my opinion, are just about as close to useless as you could possibly throw out there. That's just my opinion, because there's so much of a jump between AAA and major leagues.
Okay, so there's a couple of things with that. The first question that I want to put, and the reason why I asked that is it was a question of both Alex Freeland and Hae-Sung Kim being at the major league level. And for me, I don't see a role for both Alex Freeland and Hae-Sung Kim at the major league level with the Los Angeles Dodgers, because, and this is why I would explain it this specific way, because I think there is one specific hole that is open on the infield for the Dodgers to be able to fill in. Yes, they should fill in this type of hole because of the margin of error with one of your younger players being able to invest in plate appearances if they have the opportunity to. And I think that is at second base versus right-handed pitching. The issue with Hae-Sung Kim and Alex Freeland is I think they are kind of paired and they are fighting for one very specific roster spot. The reason why I bring this up is why won't you not bring in Andy Ibanez, and if Tommy Edman is injured, have both Hae-Sung Kim and Alex Freeland on the roster? Well, the reason why you'd be doing that is if these guys need consistent, regular major league plate appearances, the only time on ability that you're going to be able to get to be able to fill in regular major league plate appearances is for either a Hae-Sung Kim or Alex Freeland. I think it is practically impossible to do both at the major league level at this point for the Los Angeles Dodgers in the 2026 season with the holes that are opened on the infield. You have Max Muncy, who's going to take a majority of time at third base. The times that he's going to get off, it's going to be against left-handed pitching. That's not a good match with Alex Freeland or Hae-Sung Kim. At shortstop, Mookie Betts every single day is shortstop. At
how do you know that? But how do you know that? What statistical measures do you have to go by that with?
By what measure for what specifically?
When you say something's not good for Alex or not good for Hae-Sung Kim, why do you say that? You have no sample size.
Against left-handed pitching because
you have no sample size.
Well, at the major league level, they have
okay, but what's the sample size? And the sample size is what, every third or fourth game?
Yes, but you also have data from the minor league level, which I know minor league level doesn't translate over to big league level, but if you compare some of the splits between the two versus right-handed pitching versus left-handed pitching, perhaps this is a little bit of an assumption. Perhaps I shouldn't be assuming, and just throw Alex Freeland and Hae-Sung Kim against left-handed pitching as opposed to right-handed pitching and be part of that platoon as well. However, I'm thinking in the mindset of the Los Angeles Dodgers, I think they view these guys as being more of better against right-handed pitching. And if that is the case, then it doesn't match up well with Max Muncy being a platoon, because then you'd be putting them, when they're already struggling, at a disadvantage platoon-wise, at least in the Dodgers' mind, and very likely would be what some of the numbers would probably back up. I know Hae-Sung Kim did well against left-handed pitching last year. I think the Dodgers see that probably as unlikely going forward as far as the platoon splits. Perhaps that could be something where the Dodgers are inaccurate with that, but I don't see a role on this specific Los Angeles Dodgers team to get both in Hae-Sung Kim and in Alex Freeland consistent regular opportunities, which means that I think there is room for one of them to get consistent regular opportunities. So the question I go back to this is, would you have both Hae-Sung Kim and Alex Freeland on the roster if that meant one of them is getting consistent regular opportunities and one of them is sitting on the bench the entire time? Is it better for the Los Angeles Dodgers to have one of them get consistent opportunities, one of them sit on the bench? For the player who's on the bench, is it better for them to sit on the bench in Los Angeles or be practicing, trying to work on improving certain areas of his game, especially if there are, which I think there are, rooms to grow for both Alex Freeland and Hae-Sung Kim at the major league level, work on those specific abilities in Oklahoma City? Or is this conversation, especially with the second move that they made, which fills in kind of a very similar role?
It's a great conversation. There's no right answer.
Is it to the point where the Dodgers need, or very well could be considering trading one of Hae-Sung Kim and Alex Freeland?
Absolutely. I would trade Alex Freeland tomorrow. And I know that's going to – then I say that because I'm high on Alex Freeland. I can tell you as a coach, there are times, Austin, where I've taken a younger kid and I've told him, I know this is going to suck for you. You're not going to like it. But this is where we're at. This is what we're going to do. And if you don't like it, prove me wrong. I'm going to send you down to JV or whatever it may be, and because I think you need everyday at bats, and we're going to get you everyday at bats. It's going to allow you to play multiple positions defensively, maybe even pitch a little bit. It's going to be a better baseball experience for you. We don't necessarily need you on the varsity right now. We think you're going to be a great player in time. This is where we think your role's at right now, and the best for your overall development. There are times where I've done that, and that, to be honest with you, that probably if there's this situation to where limited role at the bigger level versus a huge role at the lower level, I would be honest with you, probably 75, 80% of the time, I, as a coach, choose the everyday role. Okay.
Yep.
And I deal with the player being pissed or the parent issue or what. Fine. This is me being a baseball person and my decision. So know that I come at this from probably a 75, 80%. Usually I agree with you. Going back to Oklahoma City is the best role for both of these players. But then there have been several different times, Austin, to where I've had a player and I've had them at JV and they've done everything they can, in my opinion, at the JV level. And we've discussed it in the war room as coaches, and we've gone, you know what? I know this kid needs to play every day, but to be honest with you, what this kid actually needs right now is to see how fast the game is at the highest level, is to see how major leaguers go about their work every day, is to be around the bigness of what LA Dodgers baseball is versus being in front of a crowd of 1,200 people at Sugarland, to be around a Shohei Ohtani, to be around what it's like to be a major leaguer, and to be around just the overall how overwhelming it can be to be a Los Angeles Dodger at the major league level. Those lessons right now for Hyesung Kim massively outweigh anything that he needs to do from a physical perspective. And I would say with Alex Freeland, I don't think any moment's too big for him. I think we saw that with him coming up. I don't think the bigness of LA Dodgers baseball really is a huge factor with him. I just think he's played so much baseball, and at this point he is what he is. He's not going to be any better or worse in Oklahoma City than he was last year. His stats are going to be the exact same, even if that is not good against lefties. It's not going to get better. He is what he is at this point. So at that point, we need to see exactly what kind of major leaguer he can become, and that's where I'm at with both of those guys.
Okay, so I think there's a little bit of a disagreement that Casey and I have with this, and I think that is because I think there is still areas for both of them to be able to improve at very specific skill sets. And I think at the minor league level, at the very least, that can help polish off some of their game before they can help make the jump to the big leagues. With both of them, we talk about their swinging miss. Hyesung Kim cannot strike out at a 28% clip, 30% clip at the big league level. That is far too high. Alex Freeland, there is arguably too much passivity with him, takes too many pitches at the plate. I think if he can find different ways to be able to be aggressive, to the point where I think that development, if they are still part of the system, which we can have a little bit of a different conversation, is now the right time to be able to trade one of them. I think there actually is a fair argument, especially for Alex Freeland, to say, yeah, right now is not a bad time to be able to trade him, especially if they used one of his minor league options last year. I think there is still some development that both of them can undergo at the AAA level this upcoming year, to the point where I think they can get
What
even
development
better.
is that? Be specific. What development are you talking about?
I'm talking about swing and miss ability. I'm talking about the ability to be able to make consistent enough contact at the plate. I'm talking about finding better swing decisions. For Alex Freeland, being a little bit more aggressive at the plate early.
So has it gotten better or worse for Alex Freeland in the minor leagues?
At the minor league level, I'm assuming it's gotten better.
It's gotten worse. He struck out 111 times last year and 415 at bats versus 133 in 507 in 2024, 131 and 392 in 2023. So it got worse last year. That's what I'm trying to tell you. He is who he is. There is nothing at the AAA level that's making him better. At this point, the only thing that's going to make him better is exposing him to the major leagues, and let's see if he can make the adjustments there.
Yes, I don't disagree with that. What I'm disagreeing with is I think there is more value for him to work on that. If you have to make a choice, one of Hyesung Kim or Alex Freeland is going to get playing time at the major league level. I think there is potentially more value to be able to iron out, refine the skill set in Oklahoma City than get one start a week in LA and sit.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I just disagree. I think they're both at a point in their experience levels to where I think seeing the game of the major leagues is a better learning experience for them than the everyday ground balls that you get at shortstop at a minor league level. We're in a philosophical difference there. You're coming at it, and then I can even come at it from a statistical perspective. The 2024 and 2025 being in Oklahoma City, I mean, there's a point to where you just are who you are, and that's where I think Alex Freeland is now. Are there minute things that you can get better at here and there? Probably, yeah. But I think the trade-off between power, and part of the reason, too, that this is such a tough argument with the platoons and why I just can't buy any of it. When you're talking about taking a overall not great baseball player, Andy Ibanez, and replacing him with a guy that's come through so many times in the clutch, like a Kike Hernandez or a Max Muncy or a Miguel Rojas, and using stats to do that with. Is that, for one, what percentage of pitchers in major leagues is right-handed, right? So,
it's a majority, yes.
A large part of the reason why players are better against right-handers than left-handers, it's the same reason why they're better at everything they do repetitively, and that is they have way more at-bats against right-handed pitchers. So if you make a platoon, then the platoon is always going to be the left-handed guy hitting against the right-handed guy. And kind of what I'm saying is that's not going to change from today until tomorrow. If you send Alex Freeland and Ha-Seong Kim down to AAA, he's going to see probably 90% right-handed pitchers. Now, what do you want him to do? Hit right? Because the problem with Alex Freeland is his left-handed stroke is better than his right-handed stroke. That's and then the second problem is, maybe the biggest problem is, he sees a lot more right-handers, so he's always hitting left-handed. Neither one of those problems can be fixed in AAA versus the major leagues. That's the problem. So you say, well, send him down there to hit better against lefties. Well, when? You're going to see probably more lefties in the major leagues, especially if you define his role versus you are against just random guys in the AAA. Because consider this, when you put together your AAA rotation for the week, 6-day weeks, you don't give a crap's ass who you're playing. You're not going, oh, well, we're facing this guy, that guy. We're going to set, like in college, you set up matchups here. In the major leagues, you set up matchups there. They're not doing that. They're just throwing the rotation out there, and whoever it may be, and 5 out of the 6 guys are going to be right-handed. That's not going to fix anything in terms of the splits for Alex Freeland or Ha-Seong Kim.
Okay, so then how would you get Alex Freeland to be able to get more reps against left-handed pitching? How would you be able to find a very specific role while also not diminishing his ability to be able to hit well? As you mentioned, his left-handed stroke is better than his right-handed stroke. Let's take both of these players. Let's take both of these players. Ha-Seong Kim, Alex Freeland. How would you define their major league role? Let's push Andy Ibanez. Let's say end of spring training hits. They decide to move off of Andy Ibanez. We don't want Andy Ibanez. We don't believe any of the stuff that he's going to be able to do for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Tommy Edman is not healthy, ready to start the season. And Kike Hernandez is not healthy to start the season. You have Ha-Seong Kim and Alex Freeland on your major league roster. How do you utilize both of those players?
Who? Kike Hernandez?
No, Kike Hernandez is injured. He's not going to be back until a trade deadline type of period. You have both Ha-Seong Kim and Alex Freeland on the major league roster. Yes. How do you utilize them? How do you make sure that they continue their development at the major league level, assuming Tommy Edman is not healthy, assuming Kike Hernandez is not healthy?
Yeah, this is my coach's side of it. This is going to go against the statistician. Okay, I use them as workload management, both of them. But you mentioned Max Muncy, workload management. Whoever it's going to be at second base, that there needs to be workload management because there's an injury history. Even at first base, you can put a certain guy at first base, which then opens up second base, which then has a chain of reaction that opens up a spot for Ha-Seong Kim, who plays outfield, that kind of deal. So by workload managing a Teo Hernandez, a Freddie Freeman, a Max Muncy, a Mookie Betts, or even the second base spot, which is injured, that's going to open up one of the spots for either one of those guys. And then the next one is second base, which you mentioned that's wide open. So somebody's going to have an availability at second base. So I think between the availability at second base and then the availability that if you do the workload management properly, I think that opens up plenty at bats for a guy to get better. And then on top of that, going back to my point, being around the major league environment at some point is a better growth process for a guy like Alex Freeland than taking just another arbitrary at-bat that he's never going to remember at the AAA level that's not any better than it was in 2025, which is statistics would show between the last 2 years. That's how you fill that one out from a coach's perspective and from a growth perspective. Yes, the statistics are this, that, and then also to go back to the original point, I'll throw this one, kind of flip this one on the head for you. There is only one way to get Alex Freeland and Ha-Seong Kim or even Max Muncy to hit better against lefties. And that is, well, there's two ways, okay? Either don't ever hit them against lefties, period, in a discussion. Just hide them from it forever, which there's no way you're going to exploit. You're going to be able to convince my coach brain that just hiding them from lefties forever is actually the growth process they need to go to. So
Fair
that's
enough.
number one. You're not going to be able to convince me of that.
Yep.
Then number two is, then you have to let them hit against left-handers, let them take their lumps, let them make their adjustments against left-handers, give them goals, give them standards, break it down, let them see have as many at-bats possible against left-handers as you possibly can. Those are the only two ways to actually create growth with those two in the positions of their game that you're saying are holding them back.
Yes. So there's a couple of different points. One, with the fact that being able to dilute a lot of the different positions. You mentioned first base.
This is fun, by the way. I'm having a fun time.
This is fun. You mentioned a lot of diluting a lot of positions to be able to open up additional opportunities. I actually don't think first base is an option. You know why? Because there's somebody else that's on the roster that needs playing time at first base. Dalton Rushing. I think that he's part of the mix. I don't think that opens up a spot for one of these younger guys. That's just one additional point. When it goes back to advancing and be able to grow in development at the AAA level, this can be my second point, especially with Alex Freeland. How much growth and development did we see with Ryan Ward this past year in comparison to the past couple of years at the AAA level?
He's the same player to me. He's always been this player.
Statistically, he is significantly better as an overall player.
Go back to 2 years ago before he got injured in August, and you'll find that you're wrong on that. He was at the top of the organization in home runs. He was the top of the organization in OPS. He was top 10 in batting average. When he was with Tulsa, then he broke his foot. So he has been this player. Now, did he have an adjustment to the AAA level? This goes to my argument. Of course he did. Now, if you're going to have an adjustment to this is what I've been worried about with Ryan Ward, is that he's only going to get limited opportunities, and he's going to have the same adjustment period to the major leagues as you get against AAA. So what you're speaking to is an adjustment period, not overall production. Okay, so if you go back to whatever it's 2023, and you go back to August, he was maybe the best minor league offensive player in the system at that point.
Okay, so I have not dove into those very numbers specifically, but just looking overall at the numbers, there has been a pretty steady increase from what Ryan Ward has been able to produce at the AAA level. Just overall,
adjustment period.
Just overall in 2023, which he spent the entire year at the AAA level, it was about a 25% strikeout percentage, and the WRC plus actually wasn't that great at about an 83. You adjust that for the additional park factors that are in there, whatever, and so forth. 2024, he increased that to about a 107 WRC plus, 27% strikeout percentage. The reason why the Dodgers decided to add him to the 40-man roster this past season is because he made steady improvements year after year. He cut the strikeout percentage to sub 19% and posted a 132 WRC plus. Ryan Ward is not the exact same player that he was 2 years ago. He has steadily gotten better. His power has gotten there, but he's been able to walk a lot more. He's been able to cut down on some of the swings and misses. And I think we've seen a lot of growth from Ryan Ward as a player and some of the side.
See, I don't. You're using statistics. I'm saying adjustment period. I think he's the same player he was coming up to the system. I think there were some battles he had in terms of, so you get into this mode to where Austin Gauthier ran into this. If you want to use the statistics from the first half of last season, you're going to say he was a terrible player. No, he wasn't a terrible player. He was trying to be something that he's not. So whenever you're Ryan Ward, remember, Austin, Ryan Ward got promoted to AAA well before Andy Pages did. The Dodgers actually put Ryan Ward first in line over Andy Pages. That tells you the type of player he had been until he got to AAA Oklahoma City. Now, this is what happens to guys like Ryan Ward, Austin Gauthier, Cody Hosey, especially if they aren't healthy, that kind of deal. You try to be a player that you're not because, okay, I'm not getting my opportunity at the major league level, okay, so I need to change something to give myself a better opportunity to be a major leaguer with the Dodgers. So what Ryan Ward did is he tried to hit home runs, right? He changed. So in high school, Ryan Ward was a guy that struck out one time. At Bryant University, he hit over 400. Only Bryant Bulldog ever to hit over 400 for one season. The next season, he hit 367. What Ryan Ward has always been in his career until he became a Dodger has been a bat-to-ball, high batting average type of guy. Okay, so he gets to AAA, and all of a sudden, now he starts seeing the Dodgers. He starts seeing, especially in 2024, the Dodgers were very slug heavy. They were 3 true outcome heavy. Those were the guys that were getting opportunities. That was the type of offense the Dodgers were playing, that kind of deal. So you get to AAA Oklahoma City, you get into environments like Reno, Sacramento, Albuquerque, Salt Lake City, and these places to where, man, I might be Jock Peterson. I might hit 30 some odd home runs. So Ryan Ward, he was a great player when he was himself all the way till he got to AAA. First of all, there's an adjustment period. And then second of all, what happened last year was that with 2 strikes, he spread out. He said this, and this is me speaking for Ryan Ward. Ryan Ward knew he was going to be a free agent last year, Austin. So guess who Ryan Ward was playing for last year? Do you think he was playing for the Dodgers, or do you think he was playing for every other team in Major League Baseball?
Every other team.
Of course. And so what Ryan Ward did is he went back to committing himself to doing what he always actually has been very good at. This was not just more exposure to AAA pitching. This was Ryan Ward saying, I'm a free agent at the end of 2025. I don't give a rat's ass what the Dodgers think, because I'm going to be a free agent and I'm going to sign with somebody else, and I'm going to do so coming off of being the exact Ryan Ward that I always have been. That to me is an entirely separate thing than to say, well, he got exposed. He got more exposure to AAA pitching, and that's why he got. That's not at all why he got better. He got better because he redefined himself back to what his original definition was.
Yep.
The exact same thing happened with Austin Gauthier. I can tell you, I've messaged with him. I've talked to his bench coach. Austin Gauthier, it's happening to him again this year. He saw, hey, I'm a great player for what I do. Obviously, what I do is not what the Dodgers want. And so I'm going to try to be the type of player that I feel like the Dodgers want, which is a guy that can hit home runs. So he added about 15 pounds in weight. He tried to lift the ball. And the next thing you know, he's hitting about $180. So it wasn't the fact that Austin Gauthier got more at-bats against AAA pitching that flipped his season last year. That wasn't it at all. Mm-hmm. What flipped Austin Gauthier's season was that he said, you know what, I know I'm with the Dodgers, but to hell with y'all. I mean, not literally, but I can't be this player. I'm going to go back to taking pitches. I'm going to go back to walking. I'm going to go back to not striking out. I'm going to go back to hitting the ball up the middle. I'm going to go back to hitting the ball to the right side of the field. And I'm going to be what I always have been. Austin Gauthier recommitted himself to that, and he was maybe one of the, not maybe, he definitely was one of the best minor league offensive players in AAA, period, end of discussion. But it wasn't because he had more at-bats against AAA pitching. It was because he went back to what he's actually good at. Those two things are identical with him and Ryan Ward.
Okay, so the question that I would ask is it easier to go back to the player that you were at the major league level, or is it easier to go back to the player that you were at the minor league level? I think probably you and I would probably say probably a little bit easier, low pressure at the minor league level to be able to make those adjustments. And I think some of those adjustments were absolutely necessary for guys that you mentioned, Ryan Ward and Austin Gauthier.
I think that's the wrong question to ask. The question to ask is, which is the fastest way to get to that player at the major league level?
Okay, so then what is the fastest way to be able to get to that player at the major league level? And
playing time.
Yes, I totally
exposure.
Agree. How much exposure can and should the Dodgers be able to give each one of these guys is one of the relevant questions. And when they get exposure at the major league level, how do they try to position them for the best possible way for them to be able to be successful at the major league level? That is in part a development question as far as being able to give them additional playing time, but also in part for the organization, because minor league plate appearances, I don't think are completely wasted plate appearances. I think they are good experience to be able to grow and develop you as an overall player. And one of the reasons why I go back to this, Ryan Ward wasn't just a home run hitter once he got up to Oklahoma City. 2021 in Great Lakes, 27 home runs. 2022 in Tulsa, he had 28 home runs. This has been something that has been part of this game, but the overall skill set back in 2023 was not major league type of ready. He could have been looking for something very specific that was leaning him towards trying to go towards what the Dodgers wanted and leaning him away towards what made him as good of a player. Got back to that a little bit more in 2025 and had a little bit of success, but he needs time to be able to go through a lot of that adjustments, and he made a lot of proper adjustments to the point where the Dodgers could be considering him to be part of their major league roster in 2026 because he made the adjustments and because the numbers started started to reflect how much those adjustments actually meant the numbers at the minor league level, while yes, they're not necessarily the end all be all, I think they can correlate, at least in comparison to the league, what you're able to do, what you're going to be able to do going forward. And with Ryan Ward, the reason why I wanted to bring him up is over the past couple of seasons, we have seen a steady increase in both his production and the type of way that he's gone about this specific production, which
last
has
couple
made
of years.
The past
he actually took a dip, right?
From the past couple of years. Ryan Ward was amazing this past season.
Right, but he wasn't the year before, but he was amazing with Tulsa and Great Lakes. So he's on that roller, and that's because he tried to redefine himself. That's what I'm saying.
He was really good in Great Lakes in 2021. In Tulsa in 2022, he was about league average WRC plus wise. And what I'm talking about is the past couple of years at the same level. Oklahoma City. The past 3 years, there has been a pretty steady increase of what he's been able to do production-wise. Again, WRC plus overall throughout the season, 83 to 107 to 132. He has grown as a very specific type of player throughout his journey at the minor league level. The reason why I'm pointing this out is because I think for a player like an Alex Freeland or a Hae-Sung Kim, there could be very specific ways in which they can improve their game. For example, 2 years ago, if Ryan Ward has a 28% strikeout percentage in Oklahoma City, what do you think that strikeout percentage is going to be at the major league level? Probably going to increase a decent amount. However, if he can cut that down, if he can get back to the player that he is, maybe the strikeouts aren't going to be as much of an issue. You could see a little bit more production for him at the offensive side. The reason why I'm pointing this out is I don't think it's just solely you are this type of player at the Oklahoma City level, and that's the type of player that you're going to be. I think there still could be, especially if you've defined specific areas for improvement for each one of these guys, areas in which they could potentially improve upon to the point where I think that is more valuable to these players if they are part of their system. There's a different question if they should be traded. Better for them to be able to make those adjustments at the minor league level, make them a better overall well-rounded player than to sit on the bench 6 days a week in LA and get the overall feel of what it means to be a major league player, because I don't think getting the overall feel of what it means to be a major league player is going to improve their bats. In fact, I think if you sit on the bench 6 days a week, don't get regular plate appearances at all at the major league level, I think that could potentially harm their development going forward as a big league player, because they're not getting any sort of consistent at-bats. That's the argument.
You're saying Alex Freeland, they're going to keep Alex Freeland or Hae-Sung Kim. This is Ryan Ward you're seeing here.
Yep.
And only give him 1 week of at-bats per week.
What I'm saying is the opportunity to get both of them on the major league roster, I think, is very limited. I think they can give one of these players, even with the Andy Ibanez, even with the Ryan Fitzgerald mood, I think they can give one of these players fairly consistent at-bats 4 to 5 days a week against right-handed pitching for the most part at the major league level. However, if the argument is they need to both be on the major league roster, I think that second player that is on the major league roster in place of Andy Ibanez, while Tommy Edman is injured, while Kia Hernandez is injured, I think that player is only going to see maybe 1 day a week type of plate appearances, to the point where I don't think that's going to be good for their development. And I think there's potentially some areas that they can improve upon, like Hae-Sung Kim, even in Oklahoma City, 25% strikeout percentage. That is far too high. Finding different ways for him to be able to make more consistent contact could be good long-term for him and for the organization. And I think there just is some additional room for development that I think we can have a little bit of patience with some of these guys as they go up through the system. And especially if there's very specific areas where you can identify that they need to work on this, I think the easiest way to be able to have them work on that is either with consistent at-bats. That's probably the most consistent at-bats, or be able to potentially do it in a lower pressure type of situation. With Alex Freeland, I don't want to put him in a position where he's hitting a lot against left-handed pitching at the major league level, if that is the only role that you're going to have. For example, Alex Freeland is only going to be a platoon with Max Muncy and only hit versus left-handed pitching. One, that doesn't help him with his left-handed swing, and that puts a lot of pressure on him because he's at the major league level, and a very limited role for him to be able to succeed. And I don't think he's going to have a lot of success, at least initially, going out in that very defined type of role. So I think you have to be very strategic on how you be able to go out and play each one of these guys and find specific opportunities for them to be able to succeed. And I just don't think there's a specific clear opportunity for both of them at the major league level to be able to succeed. And if that is the case,
I understand that argument that you're just saying, hey, you're not necessarily saying, hey, by platooning him, that's not necessarily the best case scenario, but it is for these guys because you just don't see the 1+1. Just you can't put a square peg in a round hole, and there's just not the amount of at bats that you're talking about to get both of them the adjust. I understand that argument, and that argument makes sense to me. But where you and I are going different here is that I just think the exposure to the major league level. Now, keep in mind, okay, you're going to be on a Tuesday night. You're going to be in front of 1,200 people at wherever you may be. Okay, versus you can be at Dodger Stadium and get 8, 9, 10, 11 at bats. They can run you over to the complex. You can. Whatever you needed, live at bats against basically the exact same type of pitching every day at Dodger Stadium in front of Shohei. So whenever you talk about getting at bats, you can duplicate almost the exact. You say, well, nothing's like game speed. Well, don't tell me that, because I've been to Oklahoma City games and I can tell you there is no game speed to a Tuesday night game in Oklahoma City. It's dead. You might as well be having an inter squad at the complex against some guy that's rehabbing. It's that type of environment. So live at bats for Ha-Seong Kim at 2:00 in the afternoon against a professional pitcher that might be rehabbing. You take a guy who's rehabbing instead of them getting their innings at the complex. You come and have them pitch at Dodgers. There's plenty of those guys out there, okay? Or guys that you signed to a specific contract for that, okay? Those at bats, those guys could get at 2:00. In front of Shohei Ohtani, in front of Mookie Betts, working with Robert Van Scoyoc, in front of Dave Roberts, in front of Andrew Friedman, in front of Brandon Gomes, in front of Billy Gasparino. There's just no way the coach's brain in me can't tell me the pressure and the pressure for them to say, damn, that's Andrew Friedman watching. Damn, that's Shohei. The pressure of that is going to be a better experience for a guy like Alex Freeland. Same amount of live at bats. And probably, so the game experience to me is outweighed at Dodger Stadium. The pressure part of it is outweighed at Dodger Stadium than it is at a AAA environment. So that's my explanation for that. And then Ryan Ward actually had his best minor league career with Great Lakes in 2021. WRC plus of 136, 9.5 walk rate. K rate was 23.5. 2022, I'm promising you, if you go up through August till he broke his foot, he's going to have a WRC plus of around 140. He's going to have a strikeout rate around 25%, and he was leading. Him and Mookie Betts, and there was one other guy. We're going back and forth every day. One other minor leaguer, I can't remember who it was. Every single day for the amount of for the lead in home runs of the entire organization. He had the highest OPS, and his walk rate at that time was around 23%. So 2022, until he broke his foot, was actually going to be better than 2021. And then in 2023 and 4, I think he was trying to find a version that he thought might get him some playing time with the Dodgers on there. And then in 2025, he went back to the player he was in 2021 and 2022. So I think that explains that. As far as the Ha-Seong Kim and Alex Freeland deal, I think the at-bats at Dodger Stadium at 2:00 in the afternoon are more pressure-packed and more realistic for them than any at-bat at the AAA level.
Okay, that's where you and I have a disagreement. I think the at-bats at the AAA level are probably going to be more valuable. In-game type of pressure, type of at-bats, I think are necessary for each one of these guys instead of backfield practice level type of at-bats. Even if you try to simulate a major league type of game, I think that's where you and I just have a disagreement. I don't think that's going to be as valuable as what it's going to be versus an in-game type of situation for both of those players. Even if it is at Dodger Stadium, even if it is Andrew Friedman and all these different guys being able to watch them, I think there's a added pressure. Even if there's not a whole lot of individual people that are within a specific stadium, they also are under the pressure of, man, I've got to be able to produce to be able to get the attention of the big league club. Instead of providing them with the attention of the big league club immediately, putting them under the pressure where they've got to fight for the attention of the big league club to try to fight for an opportunity for them or all other 29 other major league clubs, major league organizations. I think that's probably going to be a better situation for them to be able to get to this at-bats. And I just don't think the at-bat quality is quite the same. That's just a philosophical disagreement that both you and I have with that. But one of the things that is interesting in this conversation is wasn't just Andy Ibanez that was added to the mix for the Los Angeles Dodgers. It was also a guy by the name of Ryan Fitzgerald. This is somebody that was added to the mix as well. This was actually a guy they first added to the mix, added to the 40-man roster. Another one of these guys, been at the minor league level for a decent amount of time. He's going to be entering into his age 32 season. Turns 32 in the month of June. Spent since 2018 at the minor league level. Got his first taste of big league experience last year. Not a whole lot of experience with Minnesota. 53 plate appearances, 4 home runs that are part of the mix, which bumped him up to a 110 WRC plus. He's just a versatile infield type option for the Dodgers to add to the mix. Somebody that, at least at the big league level last year, hit pretty well against right-handed pitching. What's interesting about him is he can play second base, he can play shortstop, a lot of different positions. He also has 2 minor league options as well. And I think adding Ryan Fitzgerald into the mix, especially because you're going to have to make another 40-man roster move, man, if they're seeing Alex Freeland as depth piece of this organization long-term, not really knowing what exactly they're going to do. And as we've had the conversation beforehand of what is the best role and opportunity to be able to do, well, the best role for Alex Freeland that meets Casey and I in the middle is to get him regular big league plate appearances at the big league level. I think this potentially opens up an opportunity for Alex Freeland to be potentially part of the mix. One of the challenging things is what the Dodgers would not necessarily want to do that Alex Freeland is able to bring. He provides additional insurance at the shortstop and third base position long-term, which Max Muncy only under contract next season. Mookie Betts is a question of how long he's going to be at the shortstop position with his age and what that's going to do, perhaps taken away from his bat at the shortstop position. Alex Freeland is able to provide some really solid insurance in both of those options. But if you use one of his minor league options last year, and he's got 2 minor league options, and you only have 2 years of development with him being at the minor league level, and he's somebody that is seen as very valuable across the industry, and you want to go out and improve this team, go out and get an outfielder, adding somebody like Ryan Fitzgerald to potentially use somebody like an Alex Freeland, who you might have issue finding regular plate appearances at the big league level, as Alex Freeland as a potential trade piece for the Dodgers to be able to use. Yeah. I think the addition of Ryan Fitzgerald adds some additional depth to the organization. Been a solid player, at least last year at the AAA level and at the big league level, to the point where they have the flexibility to be able to make moves like, for example, potentially trading away in Alex Freeland, if that is the thing that is holding them back from improving their offense on the outfield side of situation. Ryan Fitzgerald, interesting player to be able to add to the mix.
I like the fact that he has minor league options. That's probably the biggest argument I have against the Andy Ibanez pickup, is it just eliminates, to me, on the margins at bats. I mean, whatever at bat Andy Ibanez gets, Ha-Seong Kim and Alex Freeland are not. And Andy Ibanez, I just don't think, I don't see any kind of a permanent type of situation for him. He just seems like a temporary type of guy. So, hey, let's get into this conversation. We had a kind of a statement earlier, not necessarily a question. So break it down. Let's not necessarily give an opinion, but break down Alex Freeland, who you're seeing here, and Ha-Seong Kim. Break them down statistically and from a statistical perspective, not an opinion. Let's break down who actually has been the better player.
All right. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to break it down AAA, and then we're going to break it down at the major league level, because I think there's 2 different areas that you can look at for both of those players, both at the AAA level, at the major league level.
Oh, I like it. That's
you can
nice.
draw a lot of different conclusions from both of them. You want to start with Ha-Seong Kim, or you want to start with Alex Freeland?
I've actually got, I'm sorry, I didn't put your virtual camera up. I should have done that, and you could have seen the Ryan Ward video. There you go. That's fine. That's Alex
I've seen enough Ryan Ward for you to play.
Yeah, that's That was a fascinating conversation, though. By the way, we didn't have a script, and we just never know where we're going. And we get into those conversations, and they're a hell of a lot of fun. So dive into this one from a statistical perspective, because I don't want to give my opinion on this, and I don't even know that I have one. So there you go.
All right, so let's break down Alex Freeland. What we're going to use with these is we're just going to use 2025 statistics, just because Hae-Sung Kim, he only joined the organization in 2025. Okay. I want to be fair with some of the comparisons that we have with him. Alex Freeland in 2025 in Oklahoma City had 508 plate appearances, 263, 384 on base percentage, and a 451 slugging. That is equivalent to a 115 WRC plus. That's the first thing to look at. Walk percentage, 16.3%. Strikeout percentage, just under 22%. Hits for a decent amount of power, 16 home runs, 30 doubles at the AAA level last year, 18 stolen bases. He's got a lot of unique skill sets. Very patient at the plate. At least at the AAA level, he was able to limit his strikeouts to a decent amount, had a good balance of power. He was able to go ahead and steal some bases. Pretty solid production for him, 15% above league average as an overall player at the AAA level. Going down to a couple of things. One of the things that you're going to notice about Alex Freeland, his swing percentage, this is when I talk about Alex Freeland being more passive at the plate. His swing percentage was only at 38%. League average is probably about 45 to 47-ish percent. It's well below league average at the number of times that he actually swings the bat. However, and this is really good because it allows you to not swing at pitches outside the zone. His outside the zone swing percentage was only at 19%. However, his in-zone swing percentage was only at 58%. The reason why I bring this up is Alex Freeland just is a more passive hitter at the plate, which means that if a pitcher can go ahead and throw strikes a little bit more consistently, he's going to get behind in some of the counts. You mentioned
that's my worries about Josue de Paula.
Those are some of the things, and this is actually something that I think was noticeable about a lot of different hitters that are coming up through the system, is a more patient type of approach to the plate, which just means that there might just have to be an adjustment, perhaps the swing percentage, perhaps especially early in count, being able to take advantage of some of the pitches that pitchers are trying to throw to get ahead of the count. I think those are going to be some of the areas that that Alex Freeland is going to be working at. So 115 WRC plus, a lot of walks, a decent amount of strikeouts, but that mostly has to do with him not swinging the bat a whole lot. With Hae-Sung Kim, overall at the AAA level.
Hey, sorry, we got a super chat though. 179 and I don't know what currency that is. That is Itara 8802. Thank you so much for that super chat. That is absolutely awesome. I meant to get to that a couple of minutes ago, so sorry to cut you off there, Austin. Wanted to get to that super chat. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for the wonderful support.
Yes, thank you so much for that. It really does mean a lot. Let's dive into Hae-Sung Kim. This will be the reward that you get for the super chat. Just can't thank you enough. Hae-Sung Kim, in Oklahoma City last year, 268, 337, 456, and 169 plate appearances. That was a 99 WRC plus. Started off incredibly hot for Oklahoma City, but started to cool down as he got a little bit more plate appearances over there. 14 stolen bases in 169 plate appearances. That's really good. A 7.7 walk percentage, but a 25% strikeout percentage. That is too high. The ISO was basically about the same of what Alex Freeland had, but Hae-Sung Kim, you're seeing a lot more swing and miss. That was part of his game. He swings a lot more too, close to 48 to 50% swing percentage, but that also means he's chasing a lot of pitches, 30% out of zone swing percentage for him. And I think that's leading to some inconsistencies in what he's been able to produce offensively, because for the type of profile of player that we think of Hae-Sung Kim, I think we think of him as being more of that contact type of hitter, even though he added a decent amount of power between AAA and MLB.
That's what he needs to be.
Yes.
That's what we want him to be, I should say.
Yeah, I think he just is somebody that needs to be able to adapt and be able to limit some of the strikeouts a lot better than what he was able to produce. Now, once he got over to the major league level, especially during some of the early parts, he was really good. Overall at the major league level, 280, 314 on base percentage with a 385 slugging. That's a 95 WRC plus. Here are some of the warning signs, though, because I want to be fair with some of the warning signs that there are with Hae-Sung Kim.
That's what we want. We want the full picture.
We want the full picture of what he has, because he had 13 stolen bases overall between AAA and major leagues, 27 stolen bases, got a lot of speed. Here's going to be some of the very, very serious warning signs is you don't have a player that's walking a whole lot. 4% walk percentage, not really great. Here's the thing that is some of the most concerning stuff has to do with the expected statistics. His weighted on base average was 306. His expected was 250. That's like a 250 on base percentage, essentially, is what that is trying to tell you. And that is not going to play at the major league level at all. He had a batting average on balls in play, which, yes, you can expect that to be higher.
And it will catch up with you. That's not something that will ever go away.
Yes. Batting average balls in play for Ha-Seong Kim last year at the major league level was near 400. League average is 300. Which means that when he made contact, he was getting on base a lot more than usual. It's very likely that is going to come down, which means it's very likely that his WRC plus in 95 is likely to come down. Some of the early projection models, like, for example, the BatX projection model that I used the other day, they are not high in Ha-Seong Kim at all. They only project him to have a 76 WRC plus at the major league level. Those are some warning signs that I want to make sure that you are aware. You can disagree. You can say the type of player that Ha-Seong Kim is means that he's going to overperform.
Or more experience will improve all that, yeah.
Yes, he's going to overperform a lot of that. Some of the experience that he's going to be able to give, he's going to be able to overperform what the expectations are. But I think the expectations based on the numbers is that there's going to be some sort of regression from the 95 WRC plus. Now let's go back to Alex Freeland, because with Ha-Seong Kim, swings and misses plus the quality of contact right now, there are some concerns with him.
That's a bad combo. You swing and miss too much, and your quality contact's not great.
Exactly.
Combo. Yeah.
We get over to Alex Freeland, who had 97 plate appearances at the major league level last year, and there was some struggle that he had at the major league level. 190 batting average, 292 on base percentage, 310 slugging percentage. That is a 273 weighted on base average, and a 73 WRC plus. He drew a decent amount of walks at 11.3% walk percentage, but there was too much swing and miss. It was a 36%. It was a 36% strikeout percentage, and that is in part because, I mean, you go back to some of the underlying metrics, he only swung it 38% of the time. And he didn't swing out of the zone. However, when he was swinging out of the zone, he didn't really make a whole lot of contact. He did not make a whole lot of contact in zone as well. So when you're not swinging a whole lot, and when you're whiffing a lot when you are trying to make some sort of contact, that just meant all of his out of zone contact, in zone contact, 52 and 50 or 78% respectively. Those are well below league average and well below what his numbers were at the AAA level, which means that I think he was in part pressing in a lot of specific areas in the game. Just 2 home runs during this tenure, only 1 stolen base. That is something that he very much has to be able to improve. The expected numbers are kind of right in line with that. And I think it has to do with just his ability to go out and make his swing decisions really good. And he was good at laying out pitches out of the zone, but he was too passive at the plate, which means I think this is a very specific area that Alex Freeland needs to work on to be able to grow and take his game to the next level. Because if he's going to be as passive at the plate as he's going to be, I think major league pitchers which can throw strikes are going to take advantage of that a lot more. I think it's one of the same issues that we saw with Dalton Rushing last year. He's also somebody that likes to be more patient at the plate, and major league pitchers, I think, threw more strikes, and you saw a huge increase in Dalton Rushing's whiff percentage as to what we saw at the minor league level. I think with Alex Freeland, I think there are very specific areas that he can work on those aspects to be able to make his game a little bit more well-rounded. I can go over the splits in just a little bit. I just have to go out and dig for some of those numbers, but that's the overall.
We've covered that. We know that he's way better against lefties than he is, or righties than he is lefties.
And that's fair. So that's kind of the overall outlook. I think there's some concerns with both of them as players. The question is, do they need to be able to make or iron out some of those concerns at the major league level? And should the Dodgers be able to make the investment in major league players? Not saying that they're going to be perfect major league players, because they're not going to be perfect major league players. They're
not Shohei Ohtani. They're not superstars.
Yes, but is the investment in both of these players going to be worth it, especially because there's a huge margin for error for the Dodgers because of the talent level that they have in the organization?
So let me ask you this. First of all, who do you think would benefit the most from AAA at bats, Alex Freeland or Ha-Seong Kim? I know I have a clear opinion on this.
Okay, you know what? Honestly, I would lean towards your opinion. You had the eyes on Oklahoma City a lot more than what I had. I'll leave it up to your opinion.
Actually, I probably stated that wrong. who probably needs them who would grow the most at the major league level versus even with fewer at bats versus getting more at bats at the AAA level. I think Alex Freeland is easily the guy that would grow the least in the AAA versus getting. I think he's the one who needs to be around the major leaguers the most at this point because he's played so much minor league baseball. I think Ha-Seong Kim, if you had to say, okay, one of them's going to stay with the big club, play every now and then, be the guy who fills in for the workload management. It's a platoon guy, this inconsistent at bats. If you had to say which guy is going to play that role and which one would be better in a growth perspective between the two, I think that's very easily Alex Freeland because he's played so much minor league baseball. He's used to the American game, that kind of deal. And if you're to ask me which guy actually stands to refine more, so the argument that I'm making, I think, fits Alex Freeland at the major league level. So to kind of go full circle in the conversation we've had, not argument, conversation we've had, is that I think the actual right answer here, I think it's a pretty clear right answer. I think in the argument I was making, being around the major leaguers, that kind of deal is better growth than the minor league at bats. I think that guy's Alex Freeland. I think the argument you're making that there's a lot to work on here. There's a lot of tools, but man, it's a long ways to go from a finished product. There's a lot of red flags here. And this guy really needs a whole lot of at-bats to work through those red flags. I think that guy's Ha-Seong Kim. So I think the perfect answer to that is, if you have one, Alex Freeland is the guy that goes to the major leagues, and then Ha-Seong Kim is the guy that stays with AAA Oklahoma City. I think that's probably a pretty fair assessment there, and that's going to, let's see, a three-person scene. Yeah, let's see if I can get I don't know if I can tile those properly. We have Chuck in the house. Chuck, go ahead. What's going on, man?
Not too much. How are you doing?
Hey, what's on your mind today? I'm going to try to get this tiled properly.
You don't need to bring me on. It doesn't matter. There we go. I just thinking about things going on. It looks like I kind of wrote in the other day, and I didn't get on until like this morning and last night to watch your show you did the other day. So, but it looks like Bo is past now. So I'm thinking the next move, if we don't get Tucker, would be Bader maybe, and then after that, I'm more in line with going with our platoon in house and left field and up to the trade deadline to see how it goes for a month or two, because it's going to be expensive to trade anyway right now. I'm not sure it's going to be that much more expensive to trade. And in the meantime, some of our outfield prospects that are going to be better are going to be more valuable as we go along to make the trade prior to the trade deadline. That's my thoughts anyway.
Austin, dive into that.
Yeah, so it's an interesting conversation. So one, I don't think the moves that the Dodgers made with Andy Ibanez and Ryan Fitzgerald completely preclude them from going out and getting a Bo Bichette. However, I think the overall insider mindset is there seems to be more teams that are getting in on Bo Bichette. And I think the only way the Dodgers are going to get him is if they sign him to a short-term deal, which I think is probably unlikely at this point, which means you have to look at different alternatives. As you mentioned, Harrison Bader is very likely one that the Dodgers could turn to if they're looking for something very specific on the field, and that's to be able to make their outfield defense as good as it possibly can, or at least a lot better than what it was. You would have Harrison Bader in center field, Andy Pages in right field, Teoscar Hernandez in left field. I think that makes the outfield defense a lot better. However, I still have a lot of question marks with Harrison Bader and his bat. I think last year was probably a little bit more of an outlier season than what he has produced overall, to the point where I think he's probably a little bit below league average as a bat. So the question is, what is the overall biggest need for the Dodgers as an overall team? Is it to improve the outfield defense? Is it to be able to add in a bat? Do you believe in Harrison Bader's bat in the outfield? And then the question of how much of a need is it to be able to go and add an outfielder to the mix versus the cost of what it's going to take to be able to add in an outfielder to the mix. So I'm curious what your thoughts, since you're able to join us here, Chuck. Thank you very much for joining us. What do you think the biggest need for the Dodgers is? Is it to with an addition in the outfield? Is it to be able to improve the defense? Is it to be able to add in an offensive piece? And how much are you willing to give up? Or are you just wanting to, man, the costs are outrageous, I'm just going to wait and pay those costs at the trade deadline if things don't work out? Okay, just kind of curious what your overall thought process as to what your biggest priority for the Los Angeles Dodgers is.
Well, one affects the other. I mean, the reason I was thinking about Bichette at second base is it kind of relieves the need to get a big bat in the outfield while our other outfielders get ready to go. And the reason I mentioned Bader first, because I think he's the most likely move for the Dodgers to make. Although with Tucker, it looks like Toronto's the only one in for the length of contract. I'm sure, and I'm thinking they haven't given him as many years as he wants yet, or otherwise it would be over. Yeah. And it doesn't look like the New York clubs are really in it seriously for length of contract at all. And I don't think they're as excited about Tucker as Toronto or the Dodgers are. The Dodgers, high AAV, and the Dodgers might sweeten it up a little bit when it looks like it gets serious. But I think Tucker's still in play for the Dodgers. It depends on what he wants, and I think he could kind of hide behind the other superstars that, with the Dodgers, and not worry about being the guy out in front because he doesn't want to be. New York's the wrong market for him, and even Toronto. You get a little influence from the New York market in Toronto. They're so close, and that market there, they'll be kind of peeking in on Toronto, especially since they went to World Series. So that's kind of the scenario. And it looks like the Boston, they've got other things going on. I don't think they're ready to trade outfielders yet because they haven't settled everything else. And with Bregman out there, I think Bregman's really the one big piece that moves everything once he decides where he's going.
Yeah,
that's the big piece. I think more than Tucker or the rest of them. I think it's going to be, once one of those guys like Bregman goes, you're going to start seeing dominoes fall fast because it's a month away to spring training and they're going to go early now because of the World Baseball Classic. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah. So in your mindset, if you had to make a move to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and you can rank a couple of these because I know for me, it's funny when people ask me direct questions. It's always, well, I got to think of this and this and this. You're welcome to be able to think of that. But if you had to make a move for the Dodgers to be able to add a piece to the mix, who is the guy that you are specifically looking after at this point for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and why is that?
Tucker. Because I think it just sets up everything else. Our team, Casey was saying back in July. Casey, you were saying back in June and July and August, hey, we need to get Tucker when the season's over. And that hasn't changed. We do need to get him. It's just a lot of other things that come into play. You got to, and the money, the Dodgers right now are printing money. Now, and I think in a way you got to capture this chance to win championships because it might be 25 years before you get another one.
You never know. Said that.
And so you got to do it now. So we can't, let's not get rid of our future right now just to win a couple championships. That may not come around again. Look how long was it for the Cubs? How long was it for the Red Sox? Yeah. I mean, how long is it for Toronto right now?
How about the Dodgers?
Exactly. I mean, we waited forever. I'm a 1988. Oh, think about this. I'm a UCLA Bruin fan, and I could have went to the championship for basketball in 1995 up in the Northwest, and I go, oh, we got Hallen. He's a coach. We're going to be fine. We're going to win plenty of championships.
Oh, you know who you guys beat in the Final Four? First round?
Yeah, who'd you beat? Who'd they beat?
You don't remember, do you?
No, I don't.
You beat Big Country and Oklahoma State University, you sorry dogs. Golly. Golly, man. You had to bring up 1995 Final Four, Chuck. Golly.
Hey,
that one's still wide open for me.
I could have went to the Final Four with my buddies that run the website out here.
Toothless in Seattle.
For $1,500 in 1995. And I go, we're going to win a bunch with Hallen, our coach now. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we actually had a player, Scott Pierce, who's a local high school coach in the area now, got his teeth broken out. So they made a shirt called Toothless in Seattle. That's where that Final Four was.
I want to also say I'm going to try to get out to go up there and see you, Austin, up there. I'm going to try to look at some dates. And then I'm going to also try to make I don't know how it works for meeting up with you, Casey, but I'm going to try in mid-June if you're around.
Oh, absolutely.
My wife's going to a wedding over in near Dallas. I'm going to try to hit Oklahoma City. When Tulsa and Oklahoma almost have an overlap, I'm going to try to do like a Sunday, Tuesday game so I can go to one of each of those in June.
Awesome. I'll be able to tell you all the places to hit. We'll go to the Yucatan taco stand. We'll have us a taco, and I'll introduce you to Alex Friedman, and we'll have a heck of a good time.
That'd be cool. So I need to get the hotel that's overlooking the ballpark, or
Yeah, that's
like
the Hampton. They're the well, one of them's look at my picture here. Which one? One of them's the Hampton, and the other one's the Hilton. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In Bricktown. So if you just look up Hampton or Hilton in Bricktown Ballpark, those are the ones that you're seeing beyond left field.
So if it all breaks right, I'm going to go down and I'm going to watch the Tower Buzzers,
Yeah,
the Loons, the Drillers,
nice.
and the Comets. If it all breaks right, and then the Dodgers.
Yeah,
fantastic.
That's awesome, John. Yeah, you'll have to let me know specifically if you're able to make it out to Great Lakes this year. And yeah, no, there's a bunch of different stuff, especially around the stadium that they go behind the scenes of a lot of different stuff that we can have. I know a lot of people over there. I go to a lot of Loons games as I've stated, and you can imagine.
Yeah, I figured they do Tuesday through Sunday, right? So I would probably come in and like on a Monday night and maybe do a Tuesday, Wednesday game and fly back out on a Thursday night or something.
By the way, one of the play-by-play guys for the Great Lakes Loons, John Vicari, is going to be my co-host on Sunday night show. So I'm super excited about that.
Oh, no, that's
going to be pretty sick.
Dude, I'm jealous of that.
Hey, Chuck, did you have a Merry Christmas and a good holiday season?
Yeah, it was
Sorry,
great.
I was fiddling with we've never done the three person without video, so I was fiddling with all my filters at the beginning of this. Austin could tell. That's why he took over. So sorry about that part of it. Did you have a Merry Christmas?
Yeah, we did. We actually went to see friends in Fredericksburg, Texas.
Oh, nice.
And stayed there. My daughter wasn't too happy about it but we had friends we traveled with and known them for years. And they moved from California and they don't have anybody at Christmas time. And the lady, her birthday's on the 21st. So let's go spend her birthday. Let's spend Christmas with our good friends one time. And so that's what we did. Pretty quiet Christmas. And we met some of their other friends. And Fredericksburg's amazing. I don't know if you've been down there. That's an incredible place. That's where
just west of Austin.
Admiral Nimitz grew up. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's so
did you go through did you go through El Paso or did you go through Albuquerque?
We actually flew.
Okay.
I'm gonna try and make my mind if I want to drive this summer to that or
one thing you could do is you could dip down into Mexico and go through Mexico for about 8 or 9 hours and go through Chihuahua. And just head due east from there. That's a pretty cool drive.
My wife will not go to Mexico. We went to Tijuana. Hey, get this. We went to Tijuana when we were 19. And this lady threw out a bunch of chicken guts in front of her, and we saw all kinds of crazy stuff. We had people following us when we were leaving, and we're both 71, and that was 19, and she will not go to Mexico since then.
If you take that trip, head southeast and go through Carlsbad, then Tucson, and then El Paso, you drop south into El Paso, you go through Chihuahua, and then you can kind of go due east there into the Austin area, and then San Antonio if you want to see the Alamo. That's a pretty kick-ass drive there.
Yeah, I'd have to do that with someone else, but I like going on the 10 down there because the 40, man, out in Arizona, the roads are really rough.
I-40 comes through Oklahoma too, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey man, I appreciate it. Do you got anything else that you wanted to add? We're getting ready to log off. I'm getting ready to go watch, see if Oklahoma State can beat Iowa State today.
Hey, thank you for all you do. I've got a few things going next week, so I'll try to make the shows when I can, but I missed a few, and I always watch them, though. I always watch them.
Hey, that point guard of the 95 UCLA team, was that Tyus Edney? Do I have the right generation there?
Edney, O'Bannon. Oh, I got
O'Bannon. Both O'Bannons. Ed and Charles?
You got time for a really quick story about that?
I do. Ed and Charles were the ones that started the NIL, were they not?
Exactly. Well, my son had their university phone numbers. He'd call them up and talk to them, and Sean Tarver and all those guys.
So they beat OSU and started NIL.
Yeah, we got to know Coach Wooden and everything else. Coach Wooden really did a lot. He was really nice to us. But we went down. We had press passes, and we went down to the last game of the '95 season, the regular season game, and we had that torrential rain in California. We could not get home. There were no roads open. But that night we went in there. It's our last game. And since we had press passes from one of the team attendants was a friend of ours.
Oh, cool.
And we went in the locker room, and I shook Ed O'Bannon's hands, and his fingers went around above my wrist. His hands were so big.
So who was bigger, him or Charles?
Him.
Okay.
Yeah. But they were all such nice guys.
Oh, yeah.
So I looked around, and we're in there talking to Tyus, and I'm talking to Ed and all that. And my wife don't want me to tell us what I'm going to anyway. And so anyway, I looked around, and all of a sudden my wife was gone. I thought, where'd she go? And I'm looking around, and I'm talking to guys. And I'm, talking to Bailey and all the different guys. And go, I better go find my wife. And I go out. She's back out on the floor. And I go, hey, what happened? She goes, I don't know. We were sitting there talking. All of a sudden, the guys started taking off their pants, and they were naked. And they were. I go,
Lord.
Well, we had press passes.
Oh Lord.
And so I go, oh
cool.
no, I'm sorry. I didn't even think
yeah.
about that, but
Yeah.
so
Cameron Dollar was awesome.
Oh
too.
yeah, he's a good guy too. And
yeah, they're all good guys. You find this is why I preach culture so much with the Dodgers. When you're around these minor league guys, if you're not a good guy, man, you're not around, man. I don't care how good you are.
And I got some Coach Wooden stories too when we met with Coach Wooden. He was so nice to us. A friend of mine father barnstormed with him when he was in high school, and we went down and got to meet him. He just so gracious, so nice. And we sent him a thank you card for meeting with us. He sent us back a handwritten poem and thanked us for coming down to meet him. A poem he wrote by hand, sent back to us. So incredible.
Toby Bailey, he was the guy that would always make the 2 or 3. Wouldn't make a whole lot of plays, but he'd make 2 or 3 that made the difference in the game. It just pissed you off.
Yeah, we used to go down to the high school basketball tournaments too, and and we went down. The coach from North Carolina that retired, I can't think of his name right now.
Roy Williams, Dean Smith.
Roy Williams, yeah, he was down there when I think the big superstar ended up going to UCLA. But we were down there years ago, me and my buddy Dave, and we went down, and it cost $45 to get the program, but it only cost $10 to get in because and there's hundreds of people playing. So we go over and I go, "Where's Baron Davis at?" We go, "No, we can't tell who," because they all just got numbers and they got uniforms. They just flip back and forth, And so we're there, and I go, "Well, we don't know where he is. His number." And Roy Williams is sitting on the baseline. My buddy we walk over there, but to Roy Williams. And my buddy pulls a program out of his hand. He goes, "Hey, which number is Baron Davis?" And Roy Williams looks at him like, "What the heck?" And he goes, "There's this number," and he was over there, and he was there, on the baseline, so Baron Davis could see him recruiting him. And I go, "Oh my gosh, you pull!" And they had the game on TV, and we had buddies, they're all around basketball. So he gave us chairs, and we sat next to the floor, and we went home and watched the game on tape. And I go, "Hey, there's my back of my bald head right there."
Oh, nice. Kind of like whenever we play this minor league video, and Austin's right there in the middle of it. Like the Sirvanowski stuff. Hey, Chuck, this has been awesome, man. Hope you jump on every time we do this. So thanks a lot, man.
Hey, thank you guys. Bless you guys. I think everything. I just appreciate everything you do, and I'll support you as much as I can.
Well, we appreciate you just as much, Chuck. Thanks a lot, man. See ya.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, there we go. Okay, so I got to redo this filter now, but hey, go ahead and wrap this thing up, Austin. We are actually I need to do that right there. I need to change this filter here, and while you're doing that, I am going to change this filter here and let you finish up.
Yeah, it's been a fun show, Casey. We actually had the opportunity to be able to talk about certain things that the Dodgers have done. Andy Ibanez added to the mix, not official yet, but I'm sure the Dodgers are going to announce it within the next couple of days. There will have to be a corresponding 40-man roster move that gets made. There are going to be some player that gets designated for assignment, or it's possible that this could be a sign that maybe within the next couple of days, the Dodgers are going to make a trade to be able to clear up a 40-man roster spot. We'll see what happens. The reason why they have to do that is because they did not just add Andy Ibanez into the mix. Good hitter against left-handed pitching. Pretty solid defender. I expect to be short-term platoon until Tommy Edman is able to come back. But they also added in a little bit more of a depth option in Ryan Fitzgerald, somebody who has been fighting for an opportunity for a while right now. Got a first taste of big league experience last year, but also opens up some potential opportunities for the Dodgers to be able to make additional moves. Right now, everything is still on the table for the Dodgers to go out and sign somebody to a big time, short term type of contract, like what we talked about with Kyle Tucker, or potentially a Bo Bichette, or potentially going into one of the outfielders, like Chuck had mentioned, like Harrison Bader being potentially an option, or potentially going out and making some sort of trade while also having additional assurance as well. Everything is still on the table for the Los Angeles Dodgers. We just got to wait to see what the next move is going to be. A little bit of surprising moves yesterday, but still moves that are going to make an impact for the Dodgers roster now and going forward, at least in the short term, and it provides the Dodgers with some additional insurance going forward.
All right, man, I think I got your filter down there. Hey, man, this has been a wonderful show. Great conversation. Great job today. Awesome crowd on an impromptu Saturday morning right in front of the NFL playoffs, right in front of the Oklahoma State-Iowa State game.
Yeah. Well, we mentioned that before we get off, the Rams are playing today, which I know this is a Los Angeles Dodgers, so I'm not from Los Angeles. I'm not a huge Rams fan. You're not from Los Angeles.
I like the Rams because they were in St. Louis for
fair enough. What do you expect for the game today? You think it's going to be a big Rams victory coming up in about a little under 2 hours now? You think it's going to be Rams are going to go ahead and win this game against Carolina Panthers, or what do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah, I think probably. I think I don't know a whole lot. I don't follow the NFL a lot. I start following it mostly in the playoffs. But yeah, I'm a big fan of. Well, I don't want to show any kind of expertise here, but I think probably the three teams I watch the most are the Broncos, and then obviously the Dallas Cowboys and the Chicago Bears, because Coach Holt and Rex Holt both are big Chicago Bear fans. So I'm not a big aficionado on the Rams. I did watch their game a couple of weeks ago, so I like their offense. I'll say that. That's my non-expertise opinion on that. So I'm going to go with the Rams there.
All right, I'll make all the fans happy. I'll say it'll be a big Rams victory today. I've got no expertise on that. I'm not a big football guy, as much as I am a big baseball guy. But that's something to be able to keep in mind. Fun show for you today. You're going to be able to do a show. Is it tomorrow that you're doing the show with?
Tomorrow night with John Vicari, one of the play-by-play voices of the Great Lakes Loons. Yeah.
What time are you doing that tomorrow?
Probably 7 o'clock your time.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Yeah, if it was a little later, I might have had to sneak in to do a little bit to at least be able to say hi to my good pal John Picaria. Yeah, no, it's super exciting. Going to be a fun show for you tomorrow night to be able to go through and be able to talk with him all about Great Lakes Loons, all about Dodgers offseason, whatever you guys are going to talk about.
All right, Austin, great job. Appreciate you, brother. We'll see you. You're going to do your show Monday night, and then I don't know, maybe Tuesday night, maybe Wednesday night, something like that.
Yeah, Monday night for sure, and then we'll figure out Tuesday or Wednesday to be able to do another show. Casey and
Appreciate
I
you, brother. Appreciate all you wonderful Dodgers dogs out there. It has been a great time getting to talk to you. Thank you so much for your support, and as always, it's a great day to be a Dodger.